Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. This is our fifth of six Spirit in Practice sessions. I built this off of Eric Walker Wickstrom's spiritual exercises by the same name, Spirit in Practice. But I freely adapted it in part, and I sort of used up most of his stuff. So today we're going to walk through a guided meditation of you as a child in your original childhood home, or one of them. And we're going to also work with some poetry, and we're going to pick a poem that I'm going to read through, right from our chalice words, and we're going to claim that and own it in a very personal way, and then share with one another what that feels like. So I'm going to light I've lit our menorah. It's the 6th day of Hanukkah, and our chalice lighting words are simple. They're not particularly Jewish. They're just this. It begins with only the faintest glow, a whisper. It grows until it cannot be denied, the breaking dawn. It is a metaphor of all new beginnings. This is the moment of birth. Every moment an awareness wakens. This is the gift of the East, the chance to begin again. One more time. It begins with only the faintest glow, a whisper, until it grows, until it cannot be denied. The breaking dawn. It is a time of new beginnings. This is a moment of birth. Every morning as awareness awakens, this is the gift of these, chance to begin again. We might want to mute those who are typing out there, if possible. So today we're going to do two exercises. The first is on a purple paper for those of us who are here. I emailed this to Kelly and Suzanne, who's always on. Jill probably needs to get this. Most of these, the first few are chalice words that open our services. And I'm going to invite us to take one of them that you hear. I may not read through all of them. And we're going to just do a little exercise of claiming it and owning it as poetry. This is this exercise, this simple sort of bit of meditative words is picked up from Laurel Hallman, who wrote Living by Heart. And many of the exercises in her spiritual practice tradition is to take a poem that's meaningful to you and really just claim it, and to claim it into the seeps and cracks of your day as a way to be spiritual while you're waiting for the bus, or you're just sort of, sitting in the doctor's office, or in regular practice in, say, your morning routines. So for those, hopefully you have it at home, this is the words from our hymnal, Spirit of the Living Tradition. Robert French Levin says, "Holy and beautiful is the custom which brings us together in the presence of the Most High, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened and be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of ages, the cathedral music of history. 3 unseen guests attend, faith, hope, and love. Let us all prepare our hearts, them place." Barbara Peskin says, "For the beauty of the earth, this spinning blue-green ball, yes. Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together again in this place, to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live. Welcome us." Israel Zangwill says, "Come into this circle of love and peace, or love and justice. Come into this community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come and you shall know peace and joy. Attributed to Kalidasa, origins I'm not clear of. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is just a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. It's a nice way to begin the day, I think. Annie Dillard says, we are here to abet creation and to witness to it, to notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature, so that creation need not play to an empty house. Anonymous, the most prolific writer of all time, may we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts and love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. As I read these, I want you to feel which one speaks to you the most. Kathleen McTeague, director of UU's Service Committee, says, we come together to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into each other's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, of memory and hope, is hallowed by our presence here. David Pohl, we come to this time and this place to rediscover the wondrous gift of free religious community, to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and the full heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair with all her people one. Kenneth Patton, who was a minister in Boston, really the first universalist to take universalism global and to think of it in those terms, put world religious symbols all over the church in Boston, turn of the century roughly, last, 18 to the 1900s. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips. Let us love the world through heart and mind and body. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters. We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. All life flows into a great common life if we will only open our eyes to our companions. I shortened that so it was more approachable. Sophia Lyon-Fahs, who was the preeminent religious educator in the Unitarian Universalist tradition, she says, we gather in reverence before the wonder of life, the wonder of this moment, the wonder of being together, so close yet so apart, each hidden in our own secret chamber, each listening, each trying to speak, yet none fully understanding, none fully understood. We gather in reverence before all intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect, that hands can never touch, that space cannot hold, and time cannot measure. That's pretty hot. I like that. Joy Atkinson says, the womb of stars embraces us. Remnants of their fiery furnaces pulse through our veins. We are of the stars, the dust of the explosions cast across space. We are of the earth. We breathe and live in the breath of ancient plants and beasts. Their cells nourish the soil. We build our communities on their harvest of gifts. Our fingers trace the curves carved in clay and stone by forebears unknown to us. We are a part of the great circle of humanity gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar. We gather anew this day to celebrate our common heritage. All of those are good, I think. Wouldn't be a bad way to start your day by taking the sheet and just reading through it every morning, right? Be a nice way to inspire and settle oneself, or go to bed that way or something. So I'm asking people to take the time. We're going to take probably a shorter amount of time than it would take to really do it, just because I want to keep things moving since we're not all gathered in a group. And I would invite you, if you look at the third sheet, it says learning by heart your poem/piece. I invite you to rewrite your chosen poem here in your own handwriting, changing where appropriate the public plural language of us and we to me or I. You will know where to do this. Encourage you to pick the one that spoke to you the most and put yourself center in there where possible or where appropriate, so that you are drawn into that space. Does anyone at home or here have a particular favorite one of those?
I like 439.
Gary simply likes the number 439, but he also tends to.
I like that one. I also like the Kaladaso.
Yeah. .439 is Sophia Lyon rep. You can just, I'm going to talk while you work, if you don't mind, just to have background noise for those not participating. 439 is we gather in reverence before the wonder of life, the wonder of this moment, the wonder of being together, so close yet so apart. Each hidden in our own secret chamber, each listening, each trying to speak, yet none fully understanding, none fully understood. We gather in reverence before all the intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect, that hands can never touch, that space cannot hold, and time cannot measure. That is great. That says it all right there. If I were to translate that one for my personal use, I would say, I gather in reverence before the wonder of life, the wonder of this moment, the wonder of being here, so close, so apart. Me, hidden in my own secret chamber, listening, trying to speak, never fully understanding, never fully understood. I gather in reverence before all intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect, that my hands would never touch, that space cannot hold and time cannot measure. I think to make it your own too, the second part of that is to change what you need to. What feels appropriate, essentially own it like you wrote it, edit it to the way it suits you. Pretend it's yours. Present it to your soul. My friend Stephen Schick, who's my mentor, he does this speaking by heart. So he doesn't use a script when he writes, when he preaches, or when he tries to remember poems that he can then speak spontaneously in his sermons. And he designs things with like Post-it notes, and he just sort of looks at them and moves them around, kind of a physical clipboard, you might say, poster board. And then he sits in the car and he thinks about them, and then he just preaches, because he's got it owned. That's a lot of work. And it's also hard to hold the wisdom you've gathered. There's wisdoms to both sides of things, but it does keep you dynamic, which is good. I'm going to move on. Does anybody want to share what your favorite poem was, or do you think you might employ this exercise, or anyone at home? Or
yeah, I like it. I like 436.
436 is David Pohl's Untitled. It's a chalice words. Donna likes, we come to this time and this place to rediscover the wondrous gift of free religious community, to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and full heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair with all her people one. Be wonderful if all the world leaders read that every morning, wouldn't it? It'd be a nice vision. What's that?
I hate these things. It always takes me to a place that I'm on 436. It wrote you.
Kelly, who films all our services, is always mixed about the experience. And yet one of the most sensitive people I know too. It's a nice combination. I'm going to invite us to grab a pen. There's pens for people who came here today. If you're at home, this doesn't really come with a script. There's a sheet of paper that says guided imagery. It's the last thing you have. It's in a different color. It's yellow, I believe. So I'm just going to let you just be. You can close your eyes and find some spot. I want you to walk through the home you were in, where you were any age between 4 and 10. You can pick that spot in your childhood. Doesn't have to be your home, just a place you felt very comfortable and know intimately. You entered the door, the most common door you entered. I want you to think of yourself at the short height you were at that age. I want you to imagine seeing things from that lower perspective. Try to remember the furniture. Move slowly through the space. Proceed as if you would proceed through this childhood home. I want you to think about who is with you, where they might be standing. Siblings, perhaps. Maybe there's a pet. Parent, grandparent, I don't know. Let your mind wander through this space. Don't be distracted by my specific words. You can ignore them if you like. You enter the next room. You wander freely. What is it you feel? What's the first feeling? Are you happy? What is the tone of the house? What's it like to be small again? A child again? Be in your body. Turn to your childhood mind. The smaller world you encompassed back then. As you move through the house in the way you were accustomed to, feel those feelings. Allow yourself to feel the change in perspective you have on this space now. You can be an adult here for a minute. What are those differences? How do you see the world differently? Maybe you climb or descend a set of stairs. I don't know. Maybe you walk into the garage. I don't know. For me, this home would be a home that was built just before I was born by my dad. But it doesn't feel that way. I'm surrounded by older homes. What's it feel like to be the kid that you were? Be that kid again. I'm going to give you a minute to finish this little emotional, physical time travel. Write down any notes you want to take home with you or think about. Take a little break because we're not done. Take a little break. Stand up or move around a little bit. I want you to come home now as an adult to the home you live in. I want you to feel the different perspective. Unless you're in a wheelchair or have some other difference, you're probably taller. Be in your present body. I want you to walk into this house, the one you live in, with the memory of having just walked into your childhood home. There's likely, very likely, different people there. Or maybe there's nobody there. You walk around in this home you now know so well. See the pile of magazines on the ground or the however clean or dirty it is. Feel you now as you walk through this present space, and unless you own an elephant or a tortoise, different pets than your childhood, you're an adult now. What journey have you been on in between these two moments? What have you done in between these two homes? Think of the adventures, the loves and heartaches. Which is more comfortable to be in? What advice do you have as an adult for your kid, the kid you were? Beyond invest in Apple, what would you tell yourself? How are you different than the kid you were? What are the different feelings that predominate your life now? In what ways have you grown beyond the way you thought you would grow when you were a 7-year-old? In what ways are you the same person? Life is long. We say life is short, but life is long. Let's honor the journey. Let's honor that space in between those two homes. Let's think about what lessons you want to carry forth for the rest of your days. Maybe ask yourself what your kid would tell your adult this time. What would that little kid tell you? Warnings and blessings both. You are that kid sitting at the table, of course. That's you back in the day. You are the kid who made imaginary playlands with blankets or dolls or tree forts, climbed trees. You are that person who first learned to drive, excited and terrified, presuming you know how to drive. You are that person that got your heart first opened and broken. Had your favorite relatives, the ones you avoided. Cried when you got your hair cut, or loved it. You've been a human being for a long time now. It's a pretty special thing to be. Much more interesting and dramatic and hard than being a rock, believe it or not. You're the person who lost a parent and probably likely to our audience another. You've had the courage to move on. Forced upon you, of course. You are the person who turned away from that good that could have been done. That's you. You were the person that showed kindness and loyalty when others didn't. That's you too. Hold yourself in a loving embrace. Be kind to you. It's not easy. It never was. It never will be. All we can do is hope to live with meaning and the joys that come. Amen. Siddhartha was a kid once. He was raised in complete luxury. His life was arranged specifically so that he knew no suffering. This is the mythic story. How true anyone particularly lived this, we don't know. There was no lack. There was never a sick person seen. When he first encountered suffering in his 20s, in the form of a sick person and an old person and a dying person out on a trip beyond the bounds of the control of his parents, he was determined to find its solution, its cause. He left home, he left his new wife and a baby, questionable behavior. For 6 years, he endured the most extreme self-denial in the Hindu tradition of his day. It was one of the paths. He indulged himself greatly too. Was hedonistic after being ascetic. Eventually, neither satisfied him. He sat down beneath the Bodhi tree sometime in December, I believe. I don't know the date. I think it's the 8th is when it's marked. He determined to remain in deep meditation until he solved the problem of human suffering. For 6 days he sat, and then he had an awakening through which he saw the deep truth of reality. He entered a state of perfect oneness and bliss called nirvana, also referred to as extinction. He was tempted to remain in this state, for here there was no suffering, no struggle, no sorrow, no strife. He remained there for a moment. And then he thought, what good would it do for him to have found the solution merely to his own life's suffering? What would be the result of his determination if he alone attained nirvana and peace while other beings suffered on? He roused himself, Siddhartha did, and he stood. It was the beginning of a new day, and there was much work to be done. What work was there to be done by you with your gifts, with all the way the world hurts? Maybe the way you hurt. What work is there to be done? that demands we get up from peace, take our steps forward. Buddha works hard to find an answer to life, to find happiness, essentially, and having arrived there, turns quickly to find purpose. Interesting, I say. Interesting. Amen. Closing words come from Viola Abbott. As we close and extinguish the light of this chalice and fully embrace the sacred space created here this morning, hold into your hearts the Unitarian Universalist principle which calls upon us to respect the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part, a thread. Today, we remember those who share the earth with us no longer. We bear witness to their lives, even the lives of our childhood, I would add, and the roles they've played. We pay homage and make stronger that web which connects us all. Go in peace. Be peace. Next week, we're going to run through a kind of a pick this life path thing. There's 8 or 9 ways in which one lives a healthy, vibrant life. And we're going to sort of talk through that and give ourselves a chance to see where we live well and maybe where we could use some improvement or want to change some things. And then we're not going to do adult ed until the new year. And I'm working with Sarah Dean, who's an Islamic woman who's been to church, kind of a friend of the church and ours, led a world religions workshop, came here when we did Islam. And she's gathering a number of Islamic people to join us in a book review of probably would be No God But God, which is by Reza Aslan, who wrote Zealot, which we did as an adult ed program. And we're going to do a 4-part, I think it's shaping up, there's no specifics, starting on January 9th. Probably ideally present if Corona allows for that, and we'll probably Zoom it as well with a big TV. We'll sit in a circle and we will have physically be present with a group of a handful of people, probably an even pairing with us to read through the history of Islam and have vibrant conversations as part of our multicultural kind of path that we're trying to walk. So that's headed our way. And then No God But God, Reza, R-E-Z-A, A-S-L-A-N.
Are you going to do it on Sundays?
We're going to do it on Saturday mornings, I think, at the same time at 9:30 or 10, probably 10, and see if we can gather a good group of people to come join us. And then some of us are stirring around to do probably a speaker series, most likely, based on kind of like the 5 elements. We're still toying with this. It's new, but Naresh and Carol Waters and maybe Diane Shiazawa are going to join, each of us kind of picking a theme, whether it be, and this is all in formation, so don't hold me to this, but I'm thinking it's sort of air, fire, water, right? The elements, and then having a session that highlights each of those elements in an environmental series that will probably be around somewhere in February into March. So thanks for joining us on the adult ed programs, and I hope they're enjoyable and meaningful. Amen. And the church heating seems to work, which is very practically great news. Nice in here, right? Yeah. We've been futzing around with that for a while. So on pragmatic matters, we're doing okay too. All right.
Yeah.
Comes from the floor. Yeah.